All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to Grandma's Celebration of Life. It was an absolutely beautiful day. I could see when we woke up today, and I know there's a football game and there's harvest. So thank you for taking the time out to just come and celebrate with us. I have a few little stories, but I am actually going to start off with the one. It's not written down here, but those of you who know me know that I do like to chat a lot. So I am going to try to keep it a little bit short and sweet here, because I know that Michelle and I might have a couple duplicates of stories here. But the one story that I'm going to say in particular is when I was a little girl, Grandma would always, oh my gosh, I would be chatting and chatting, and she would say, "Jennifer, do you ever be quiet?" And I'd say, "You know what, Grandma, you're just a mean grandma." She said, "You're right, okay, just chat." So anyways, I'm going to do the eulogy, and I'm going to do it the best that I can for you guys. So Grandma was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba on January 4th, 1928 to Minnie and Edwin Bongfeld. She was the eldest of two children. Her little brother, Eddie, or Uncle Eddie as we know, she loved him dearly. She loved her travels to Ontario to go and visit, and today I believe almost all of them have made it here to celebrate the life of Grandma. Her family moved around Northern Ontario as her dad worked for the railroad. One of the first places was Reba Station near Thunder Bay, Ontario. It was a native community, and Grandma was quite the novelty, as she was the only little blonde-haired girl in town. The natives were quite amazed by her. Grandma started grade 1 in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. She completed high school in Fort Frances. Straight after high school, Grandma attended nursing school in Winnipeg at St. Boniface Hospital for 3 years. She started her nursing career in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. From there, she took a position at Rabbit Lake, but they expected her to get meals ready. And honestly, I can vouch for her. She did not love cooking, and I do not love cooking. So Grandma said, in her exact words, "I did not go to nursing to be a cook." So she only lasted there a couple months. So her next position she took was at Vida, Manitoba for a short period of time. From there, she actually came to this beautiful community, Redvers, Saskatchewan. She came here in 1951, and she worked in the Redvers Union Hospital until she finished her career in 1993. Unfortunately, Grandma's nursing career ended sooner than she would have liked due to health issues. Her poor knees and her feet caused her much pain and grief. And after the one doctor joked with her saying, "Marion, you are in worse shape than the patients hobbling down these halls," she was encouraged to retire. Marion's family have had numerous stories telling about Grandma. There was one gentleman that actually came up to Melanie in the co-op that said, "You know, Melanie, your mom, she would scold me." She said, "I would come in after having the brand new baby and want to lay down on the bed, and she'd say, 'That bed is not for you. That is for the mother. Get your butt off of there.'" Anyways, I also had another friend of mine share a story after Grandma passed. And she said, "You know what, Jen? When I was a little girl and in the hospital, I was in and out a lot with my uncontrollable asthma. Your grandma was one of my favorite nurses. I would be so homesick for my mom, and your grandma made me feel 100% safe. She was just gentle and confident. There was an aura about her, and I'm so thankful to have your grandma part of my world." Over her nursing career, she developed many lifelong friendships. I also see a few ladies here that I got to speak with today and say hello to, so thank you so much for coming. She was proud of this community and very proud to be a part of it. She also had some nursing buddies throughout her career, and I guess they actually used to nickname her Bing Bong. She remained friends with these pals. A mention of this nickname would bring a smile to Grandma's face. She remained friends with these pals for her entire life. And still, just until she passed and not long, they would meet at the log cabin for their yearly birthday, Saskatoon pie and ice cream. Here's another little funny story. As we all know, and Cameron was just mentioning to me right before, that Grandma had a really heavy foot, like a really heavy foot. You could see her bombing down the roads in her, she always seemed to have a maroon colored car, and I guess she was going to take her license, and for some reason, I think it was in Storthouse, and she had said it was absolutely raining cats and dogs, and that Highway 8 was just an absolute soupy mess, she would say. I guess she arrived, and the driver instructor said, "Well, how did you get here, Marion?" "Well, I drove on that awful road." He said, "Well, if you can drive on that road, you can drive anywhere." Handed her a license, and she never looked back. There was one trip that she went on. It was actually to the Badlands with her best friend, Mildred. And boy, oh boy, yep, she had a need for speed, Mildred would say. She was definitely a bit of a daredevil. She loved this trip because there were so many curvy roads and steep edges, and she felt like she was in a race car. Speaking of her being a daredevil, she loved carnival rides. Her mom, Minnie, would take her and Uncle Eddie on roller coaster rides, and she said that was just one of her favorite things. And I do have to say that one day, her and Mark and Melanie and myself and the kids, we all went to Callaway Park, just outside of Calgary. And for some reason, the kids got me on the strawberry ride, you know, the one that spins around and around and around, and I'm saying, "Holy gosh, please slow down." And Grandma's saying, "Go faster," laughing her butt off. Oh, I tell you, I got off, I wasn't feeling all that great after that ride. I was speaking with some of Grandma's daughters, I guess my aunts, and they were telling me a few little funny stories about Grandma and Uncle Eddie. Auntie Tracy was telling me that, I guess years ago, Grandma and Uncle Eddie, when they were younger, they liked to play chicken with the train. I guess this consisted of them on their cross-country skis, going down the hill, turning right before the train crossed. Yeah, I guess that was probably pretty scary for their parents. And they also thought that they would like to take their cross-country skis in the late spring and go across the ice when it was almost like rubber and seeping up behind their skis. But you know what? Kids will be kids, right? Grandma was married to Edward Huff, also known as Teddy Huff. He was from Mayer, Saskatchewan. They were married on January 24th, 1954, and they were together until his death in 1996. Marion and Teddy had 6 children: Marlis, Pam and Ron, Pam married to Ron, Ward married to Jen, Tracy married to Glenn, Richard married to Diana, and Melanie married to Mark. These 6 children of hers gave her 13 grandkids and 13 great-grandkids. However, Marion's highlight of her life was her children and her family. She always said she just really wanted to be a mom. One of the hardest things in life was losing her beloved Marlis, her firstborn, in August of 2005 to leukemia. This truly broke her heart. She would say that parents should never, ever outlive their child. She had a deep interest in books and reading. She also loved her TV. You could find her watching Little House on the Prairie, Heartland, Murder, She Wrote, and she especially loved Highway to Heaven, just to name a few. And when she couldn't attend church services in person, she had her church hours at home in front of the TV. And just like her mother, Minnie, you knew not to call her during church hours. She would not answer the phone. And if you did, she would scold you afterwards. We all knew how much she loved her animals. She loved all her animals, but especially her cats. Over the years, she inherited many pets from her children, maybe a few from her grandchildren, a little bit of everything. She almost could have started her own rescue at the farm, actually. There was one cat in particular that had 4 baby kittens, and I guess Grandma had mentioned that this cat had been ran over and the kittens had no mother. So Grandma and Melanie, they fed these kittens, bottle fed these kittens, and Grandma was so pleased when 2 of the kittens were adopted by her good friend Pauline's daughter, Lizette and Earl. They drove all the way down from Winnipeg to come and pick up these babies. And I believe that they still might have one of them. I know Grandma still has one named Buffy, and I actually got to snuggle her the other night. As Michelle said, she was a very avid supporter of the church and many charities. One of her favorites was the Humane Society, and also the Christmas Operation Child. And I love this idea so much, Grandma donating these boxes, that I actually now donate my time in Calgary preparing these boxes to be shipped overseas. This is kind of a funny story too. She had 2 pigs that once again she nursed, nursed from the time they were babies, Herman and Norman, that followed her around like dogs. I tell you, I can remember as a kid, those pigs, they would be following you around and almost tripping over you and just everywhere. Anyways, it was a very sad day for her when she had to put these in her freezer. However, every time we took a package out of the freezer with the letter H or N marked on them, they were always remembered. Once again, with her animals, for those of you who know, she also had birds. She really loved birds. And she had a couple cockatiels, and one was named Sammy. And Sammy really warms our heart when we think of it. Sammy used to love flying around the house, and one day she accidentally landed in a hot pan of oil, and she actually lost her feet. Grandma would take that little bird, she would wrap her little limbs in gauze and salve and change the bandages regularly. She actually made even a little shoebox and kept her by the bed every single night until she recovered. That little bird would still continue to fly around and land on Grandma's shoulder and nibble on her earlobe. Once this little bird got back into its cage, Grandma had modified that cage. She wrapped up the soft perches for her to sit on. This truly showed Grandma's loving nature for animals. I can remember staying at Grandma's house, taking the bus home with Auntie Mel on Friday, basically going riding from the minute we got off the bus. But in order to do so, Grandma would say, "You girls have to do your chores on Saturday." This included getting up bright and early on Saturday morning. We had to clean the bird cages, dust, vacuum, clean the one bathroom. Yes, there was one bathroom for 6 children. Can you imagine? However, there was a good old outhouse, and in there, you would find mandarin orange wrappers for toilet paper, and you would also find the Reader's Digest. Grandma loved her Reader's Digest, and everywhere there was Reader's Digest. I actually believe she had a prescription for all of her kids forever and ever. Anyway, Saturday was laundry day for Grandma. She would hook up the wringer washer and literally do laundry all day. She would hang every single item on the clothesline. And once they were dry, she would have a big pile to iron. Can you imagine how long that would take? I would say we're pretty darn blessed to have all the modern conveniences we have this day. As much as Grandma loved her pets, she truly had a love for her grandchildren and children. We can remember numerous sleepovers at Grandma's house, and we would always get to help her bake. One of her favorite memories is when she would bake pies. She would have all the leftover dough that she would give to us kids, and she had a tiny little rolling pin, these tiny little cooking sheets, and she would just let us roll the dough out, butter it, sprinkle on brown sugar and cinnamon, and cut it into bite-sized pieces. Oh my gosh, this was the best snack ever. And during those sleepovers, we also learned many life lessons. She would tuck us in and make us say a prayer before bed. "Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And God bless me and keep me a good girl forever. Amen." And then in the mornings, we were taught to make our bed. This may seem like a simple task to anyone listening, but if you knew Grandma, if you couldn't bounce a penny off the sheets, these sheets were not tucked in tight enough. And do you see those corners? You would better fold those corners in a little bit tighter. And once we did that, then we could go and play. Grandma also said that she prayed for a red-headed child and twins. She never actually got them. However, yours truly came along with the red hair, and then Richard and Dinah gave her twins, Michael and Alex. I think she felt a little bit more at peace with that, but I think she still really wanted her own red-headed child and twins. And if you knew Grandma, she loved routine. Every morning she would get up, she would feed her animals, and then she would make herself an instant coffee, 2 pieces of toast, with either a half a banana, a half an orange, or just to change things up, a half a grapefruit. She would sit and do her crossword puzzles, Sudoku, or word searches. You would actually always see a writing pad beside her because she loved writing letters to everyone. We all have countless letters and cards from Grandma. There is many things that I will miss about Grandma, and there's a few things Just simple little things like addressing a card or a letter to her that says Marion Hoff, Box 252, Redver, Saskatchewan, SOC 2HO, and picking up the phone, dialing 1-306-646-4671, and hearing that cheerful voice answer the phone. I always have such a long drive when I'm in Calgary, driving to and from work, so I would always pick up the phone and call her, and we would always promise to hang up, and then hang up again, and about 5 or 6 times before we even actually finally said goodbye. So Grandma, please know just how much you will be missed. Your grandchildren, your children, your great-grandchildren, your community, and everybody says a prayer for you. You will always be in our hearts. We love you forever and ever. Amen.